Good morning, distinguished guests and community leaders. Please welcome Ann Burroughs, President and CEO of the Japanese American National Museum and the Daniel K. Inouye National Center for the Preservation of Democracy.
Good morning, mayors. Good morning, guests. What an honor it is to have all of you here. It's always an honor for me, and it's always a privilege for me to welcome people into our home at Janum. And I thought that I would start off by just locating you in the history and the importance of where we are today. So Janum was founded, the Japanese American National Museum was founded by Japanese Americans who themselves had been incarcerated during the incarceration camps in World War II. And the reason they founded this museum was to ensure that the history of what happened would never be forgotten, that the artifacts would be preserved, and that the stories would always be remembered. So it was both an obligation to their own history, but also an obligation to the present. And it's no accident that we are on this very site where LA's Japanese American families were forced to board the buses that would take them onto the incarceration camps, where they would join a total of over 125,000 Japanese Americans who were forcibly removed, dispossessed, and incarcerated for the duration of the war. So for us, civil rights, defense of history, defense of democracy has been in our DNA from the very beginning. And where we are now, for us, and I think it should be for everybody in this country, we're on hallowed ground. Because this is the point where Japanese Americans were forced to board the buses. This is one of those ground zero points in the civil rights history of this country. And as Mayor Bass always speaks so eloquently, this is one of the hallowed ground sites of Los Angeles. So for us now here in the Democracy Center, it's an amazing place for us to be able to gather people together, to talk about issues of racial justice, to talk about identity, to talk about the fragility of democracy, and now, unfortunately, also to talk about authoritarianism and what that means for all of our communities. But it's also a very powerful place for us to be able to bring the lessons of history into direct conversation with the present, and also to think about how we shape a more just future. It's where we're able to transform historic understanding of history into civic action and civic activism. So what I'm going to say in final words is that, you know, for us, after the inauguration of Trump last year, within 2 weeks, our trustees came out with a statement in defense of democracy, civil rights, and history. And we were the first museum in the country to do so. And for the longest time, we were the only museum in the country that did so. We didn't do it just because it was a defense of history. We didn't do it just because it was an act of defiance. We also did it because nobody stood up for Japanese Americans in 1942 when they were incarcerated. So we feel an incredible obligation to be able to speak up, to stand up, to be there for other museums, but most importantly, to be there for our immigrant brothers and sisters who are experiencing exactly the same as what Japanese Americans experienced in 1942. And here at Janum, we know too well what that means, both historically and in the present. We know what it means for terror to stalk our streets. We know what it means for our immigrant brothers and sisters to be kidnapped, to be disappeared, and to be forcibly removed, and to be taken away from the homes, the places that they call home and where they belong. And just in August of last year, our plaza, our hallowed ground, was invaded by 75 masked and fully armed, lawless militia when we were hosting a press conference here with the governor. And I know that several of you were here at that time. So they came in, they invaded our space, they invaded this hallowed ground, and they arrested and they detained one person for no reason. And it was so obvious, it's so obvious what is happening. But thank you for being here. We're honored to be able to play a part in this, and we welcome you to come back at any time. to be with us. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mayor Karen Bass. I want to welcome you here today, and I appreciate the museum for inviting us in, and I also appreciate that history lesson, because one of the things that worries me is that I think that people do not remember our history. One of our goals today is to document everything so that this moment of history is never, well, first of all, that it stops and that it is never repeated again. I thought it was important to be here because I realize how many people do not know that this was hallowed ground. I remember as a child listening to my mother talk about waking up one day. She was raised in Watts, and how she saw her Japanese American neighbors being taken away, and the stores abandoned and everything, and she didn't understand as a child why that was happening. So we know that what is happening here today and what we're doing is we're on the front line of a fight for our Constitution, and it isn't just in Washington, it's right here in our communities. Right now, we know that ICE is using forced entries and paramilitary maneuvers that fly in the face of the Fourth Amendment. We've seen the results of culture of fear and instability that has driven people away from the very courts that are meant to provide justice. If people show up for their appointment that they're supposed to go to, and then they wind up being detained, we're hearing that 79% of people are missing their hearings because they're afraid to abide by the basic rules they were told they had to provide by. So we're demanding that an end to the ICE raids, an end to the attack on immigrant communities, and that those who are in detention be released. To those who say we must choose between the law and our neighbors, the Constitution disagrees. It guarantees due process to everyone on this soil. We will not allow our cities to be defunded or our constituents to be unlawfully detained in the dark. So today we bring these actions into light. We're here to restore transparency, to demand federal resources for our communities, not to attack our communities, and that no administration is above the law. So what we hope to do today is to compile the data. We had a congressional hearing that was chaired by Congressman Robert Garcia several months ago. He's going around the country gathering and documenting information. I am hopeful that there will be a change in power in Washington before the year is over, and Robert Garcia will be Chairman Garcia, who will then have subpoena power, who will then have the data. He won't have to start compiling the data, but he will have the data as to what is happening around the country. And our data will be helpful, especially since all of these violations of our basic rights started right here in Los Angeles. And I'm proud to say that from the beginning, the cities that were under attack, and even before they were under attack, we started working together and talking together, sharing what each other was doing, and trying to manage the situation in each of our cities. So to begin, I want to go around the circle for each mayor or their representative to introduce themselves, to speak very, very briefly so that we can get to our panel. We will have two panels, and I will begin with Mayor Rex Richardson from Long Beach, and each person will speak after that very quickly.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor, for having us. I'm Mayor Rex Richardson of the city of Long Beach, a very diverse city with a proud immigrant community. We are here to add our voice. We appreciate the spirit of collaboration and the words about those who forget their history are doomed to repeat it. And when we think about these moments throughout history, it was really the spirit of collaboration across race, across jurisdictional lines that really brought us together. And I'm proud to stand with these mayors from across the region and really doing everything we can to protect our communities. We're working together on litigation, legal defense, sharing resources, collaborating on best practices, and today is about getting our stories down in the sake of justice, making sure that we have it on the record, and we've invited community members from all across our region to make sure that we have a documented record to help support the process of accountability and oversight. We also want to thank Congressman Garcia from Long Beach for leading as ranking member of the Oversight Committee. We are all working together. By working together, we can help protect, have the best shot at protecting all of our communities and uplifting and defending our immigrant communities across the region. Thank you so much. Next is Mayor El-Mani Mayor Jessica Ancona.
Thank you, Mayor Bass, for convening us here today. I'm Jessica Ancona. I'm proud to serve as mayor of the city of El-Mani. I'm honored to stand with leaders from across our region, from across LA County, who are committed to protecting the rights and dignity of our immigrant communities. As a proud daughter of Mexican immigrants, this issue is deeply personal to me. My parents came to this country seeking opportunity, just like so many of our families across our region. Cities like El-Mani were built by immigrants who work hard, raise families, start businesses, and strengthen the social and economic fabric of our communities every single day. But today, many of those families are living in fear. Across our region, aggressive federal actions have created deep anxiety in our immigrant communities. When federal agents conduct operations in ways that terrorize our neighborhoods, it doesn't just affect one individual. It sends shockwaves through entire communities. We saw this clearly on January 30th in my city. Maria Sante, who is here with us today, is a US citizen. During federal enforcement operations, agents broke the window of her car, pointed a gun at her, and took her into custody. She was driven around for hours before ultimately being released outside El-Mani City Hall. That incident sent shockwaves through our city and throughout the region. But the reality is that there are thousands of other stories that happen in silence, without cameras or media coverage, where families are torn apart and communities are left traumatized. That is why we are here today to share these stories, to confront the human cost of these actions, and to stand in solidarity as local leaders who are committed to collaborating on ways we can collectively protect our immigrant communities. Our immigrant communities built our cities, and we will not allow fear to define the places they call home. Thank you. Next is my colleague from the city of Montebello, Mayor Georgina Tamayo.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mayor Karen Bass, for convening us today, having us here to share our stories and tell what has been happening in our cities. Over the past year, our community in Montebello has faced the difficulty of the immigration enforced raids happening in our neighborhoods, at our workplaces, our local businesses, and in people's homes. These actions have created fear, separated families, and disrupted the lives of hardworking residents who continue every day to strengthen our city. Montebello also made it beyond policy. Montebello has spoken up publicly against these raids. We at the City Council have also committed $100,000 for the residents that were affected by these. So this program provides rent, groceries, utilities, legal assistance, and even mental health services for the families that are affected in our city. But Montebello is, again, a city that is built by immigrants, families, and hardworking people. In times of uncertainty, our response has been simple but powerful. We stand together. And today also with me to tell our story of what has been happening in Montebello and that we stick together is Brian Gadivia and Javier Ramirez. They were the ones that were, when these raids started in Montebello, they were initially impacted at their work site, and they will be providing the testimony here today. So nobody better to speak about what the impact has been to our communities than the residents who have been impacted themselves. So thank you for having me.
Good morning. Thank you to Mayor Karen Bass and the organizers for convening this very important regional hearing. My name is Elizabeth Yang. I serve as mayor of Monterey Park. Our city of Monterey Park is one of the most diverse immigrant communities in the San Gabriel Valley. We comprise of over 65% Asian American and 30% Latino Hispanic population. Many of our residents and small businesses are directly affected by these federal immigration actions. For cities like ours, immigration enforcement actions have immediate and visible consequences in our neighborhoods. When fear spreads through a community, the effects ripple far beyond the individuals directly involved. Families become afraid to go to work, small businesses lose customers, children worry about their parents, parents worry about their children, and students carry that stress with them into their classrooms. We recently had a human trafficking case right in front of Marquepo High School, and students that were being dropped off were terrified seeing federal agents. Local governments also see these impacts firsthand. We hear from restaurant owners whose workers go missing. We hear from parents who are worried about being separated from their children. We hear from faith leaders and community organizations trying to hold communities together during uncertain times. Our cities depend on immigrant workers, immigrant entrepreneurs, and immigrant families who contribute every day to the strength of our local economies and the vibrancy of our communities. Today's hearing is important because it brings those real stories forward. As mayors, we are all here not only to listen, but also to ask questions and ensure the voices of our communities are heard. Just a year ago, our city of Monterey Park was one of the first cities to join Mayor Karen Bass's federal immigration lawsuit against these illegal ICE raids. I look forward today to hearing from our panelists and learning how we can work together to continue supporting our families, strengthen our local economies, and keep our communities united. Thank you for organizing today's very important hearing. And next we have Mary Solorio, Council Member of San Fernando.
Hello, everyone, and good morning, and thank you so much all for being here today. My name is Mary Solorio, and I'm a council member for the city of San Fernando. Earlier this morning, I told a small story that really impacted and changed my life. When I was 5 years old, I was separated from my parents. My parents are hardworking, honest people, and yes, they are immigrants. The Northeast San Fernando Valley has been extremely impacted by these ICE raids. It really hits home to me because I understand the generational trauma that happened to me and my two older siblings growing up. I still feel it today. And I am saddened each time that the news comes out where they have used children as pawns to capture and take people against their will and against their rights. I am here as a representative of the San Fernando Valley, the city of San Fernando. The city of San Fernando and the Northeast San Fernando Valley has been incredibly impacted by ICE raids. We are actually known as a hotspot. In one day in San Fernando, immigration authorities hit 3 different locations in a small city of 2.4 square miles. People are being taken, people are being hurt, and our community will not stand with it. I'm here as a voice, someone to speak for our immigrant community, to advocate for them. I'm also here to listen and take back stories and understand what else can San Fernando and the Northeast San Fernando Valley do to do better and stand up for our immigrant communities. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just continue. My name is Dan Brotman. I'm a council member in the city of Glendale. Thank you to Mayor Bass and everybody who organized this event today. A little known fact about Glendale is that over 50% of our residents were born outside of the United States. So we are also a very diverse community. We've seen raids like everyone else has on the normal places, the Home Depots, the car washes, many other locations. But I want to uplift one tragic story that involves a 43-year-old gentleman named Julio Cesar Peña. He was taken from in front of his Glendale home in a random sweep on December 8th and was sent to Adelanto. Mr. Pena was suffering from high blood pressure and diabetes and was actually returning home from a dialysis appointment when he was picked up. While in custody, he suffered a stroke. He was taken to a hospital, and for reasons that are really hard to credit other than intentional cruelty, he was shackled to his bed by his hand and foot, even while intubated and unconscious. For weeks, he was prevented from contacting his family. Julio was eventually released, but then died on February 25th. So while in some cases, people with serious criminal records are being picked up, and some of my more conservative council colleagues are quick to mention these cases, many others are being picked up, like Mr. Pena, simply because of how they look, where they work, how they speak. And people's rights to speak to a lawyer, to contact their family, or simply to be treated as human beings are being violated in Glendale like elsewhere in the county. You may have heard Glendale had a long-standing contract with ICE, which allowed them to place detainees in our jail. We terminated that contract early last year, shortly after immigration raids began. I'm proud we acted quickly. We're now looking at the efficacy and ramifications of implementing an ICE-free zone in Glendale. But I want to do more. The community wants us to do more. It's very frustrating when people ask us what we're doing proactively and we don't have good answers. So I'm hoping to learn from all my colleagues here and take back ideas so that we can protect our community better.
Thank you. My name is Leticia Lopez, and I'm the mayor for the city of Vernon. As we've heard today, the ongoing immigration enforcement activities have impacted all of our communities, causing fear and harming local economies. As a city, our focus is on ensuring the safety of all of our community members, regardless of status, and maintaining trust with local law enforcement. I personally have seen the impact these raids have had on our foster youth, who have been taken in by their extended immigrant families, who have now been taken by these raids, and now children are left with no families to care for them and have to now be placed with foster families. We need to stand together and continue our collaboration to stop these raids. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Cynthia Gonzalez. I'm the proud mayor for the city of Cudahy. Professionally, I'm a longtime educator of over 20 years serving some of our most marginalized communities. So I want to talk about education specifically and what's happening to our public schools. Enrollment is declining across LA Unified. Our region in Southeast Los Angeles is specifically taking a large hit of families not sending their children to schools. And I think this is important because schools, public education is a democratic institution in our country. And if students are not going to school, they're not learning, and this is gonna have long-term impacts for decades. In communities like mine that are extremely low income and in our region in Southeast, to not have children attending schools means that it's gonna be harder for them to come out of poverty and for our community to come out of poverty as a whole. And so it's a passion of mine to speak up against ICE and what they are causing, the fear they are bringing to our communities. I also wouldn't be me if I didn't bring up that at this moment, everything needs to change, from the work that we do as elected officials, how schools are behaving in our community, but also our law enforcement officers. They also need to change. We pay their salaries with our tax dollars, whether you're undocumented or not. If you're paying for rent, that property tax is going to help sustain the salaries of law enforcement agents, and I think it's really important for them to decide who they stand with. And for us to demand more of our law enforcement agencies that say that they are here for safety, but people do not feel safe, that they are not willing to do the minimum aspect of their job, and somehow have created a clause for the federal government to physically harm people, to damage property, all the things that they would never stand for with regular community members. And so I hope that through this hearing, we have ideas on what is the minimum we can demand from people that are getting paid from our tax dollars, and that we do so in defense of our youth and the future of our communities. Thank you, and now I hand it off to my colega, Arturo Flores.
Thank you, Cynthia. It's, I've known Cynthia for quite a few years, and I'm not surprised that that's something that you brought up. My name is Arturo Flores. I was a former mayor of the city of Huntington Park when the immigration enforcement started. I want to talk about two families right quick. The first is Jorge Sierra, who was involved in an accident in the city of Bell. Consequently, ICE ended up using shape charges in the early mornings of June, I think, to blow up his window, to blow up his door over an accident. The other family, Sabrina Medina, who they were trying to find her husband for a Dr. Phil episode, harassed her several times, kidnapped her mom, held her mom as leverage, and demanded that she turn over her husband. These are a few incidents that I described in my city that were very violent, for, things that would be considered misdemeanors or just literally the perception of having information. Cynthia brought up a really good point, and I would say all of the incidents that happened in my city, there was some form of local law enforcement, police involvement that did take place. And I will tell you right now that till this day, there has not been anything regarding SB 54 violations, nothing from the Attorney General, nothing from, in regards to what the role of law enforcement was when it comes to some of this enforcement. I really hope that from this panel we hear what they've been seeing, because we keep being told that, law enforcement's not helping, but then we see videos of law enforcement helping. So it's very concerning, and I think as leaders, we have to start leveraging the power of the purse, and I have yet to see a police chief get fired or a law enforcement officer be held accountable for actively violating SB 54. Buenos días, mi nombre es Arturo Flores, soy el alcalde anteriormente de la ciudad de Huntington Park. Yo quiero hablar de dos familias hoy en día. La familia es de Jorge Sierra, que se involucró en un accidente de tráfico en Bell, y por ese accidente el gobierno federal usaron explosivos en la ventana y la puerta de la familia sobre un accidente de tráfico. La otra familia es Sabrina Medina, que el gobierno federal estaba buscando a su esposo y secuestraron a la mamá y demandaron ellos que le daran el paradero del esposo. Estos incidentes de que estamos hablando son incidentes que son muy violentas, sobre cosas que ni son crímenes. Entonces también tenemos que, nosotros como elegidos aquí arriba, tenemos que empezar a cuestionar cuál es el legado, el papel de la policía local, y qué pasa cuando ellos violan la ley SB 54, que dice que ellos no pueden ayudar ni asistir a los agentes de inmigración, agentes federales, porque lo que los están diciendo es que no están ayudando, pero lo que estamos viendo es que sí están ayudando. Gracias.
Good morning, Gustavo Camacho, Mayor of the City of Pico Rivera. As a Mexican immigrant myself, and having to share stories about being, 5 years old when my parents brought me to the United States, and being left with my grandparents while my dad and my mom decided to come over and search for a better life for me and my brothers. It's a story that is common throughout, and to be able to go through that process of being left with grandma and grandpa in Mexico and then brought here and going through the process of going to the border, it's a personal story that I can share with you in details. I can share with you when my mom was pregnant with my younger brother, and my grandpa passed away, and she had to be there in the services, and she had to go home and to Mexico to be there with as he laid rest, and yet having to come back and cross the border pregnant with my younger brother. These are stories that I think that are transcended upon our communities, that are common, that we all know. And we do this, people don't leave their country because of, just because of the sake of leaving. They leave because of survival. They leave because they want to make a better life for their families, as my parents did and as many other parents have. It's personal. And if you do not have any direct connection with that story, and if you are so far removed from any of that immigrant story, then ask yourselves, what if that was your dad? What if that was your mom, your brother, your sister, your tia, your tío? What about being dragged to the ground, being just tortured in general? What about if that was a family member? I know you would be outraged. I know you would be emotionally a roller coaster in your family. This is personal. Don't desensitize yourself from the stories. Every one of these families has a story of struggle, a story of survival, a story of being one here and making a better life. You know, I am proud, the City of Pico Rivera, of what we've done in our response to this immigration enforcement, from communication to providing resources to doing what we can. It's not enough. We're trying to learn to do more. You know, I can share with you many stories of incidents that have happened, and one particular comes to mind is a young man at Walmart that was doing what all we're taught to do: protect the elderly, protect those who can't. And he did, and he got, you know, obviously arrested, and you know the story. Some of you know the story. And, you know, unfortunately, he was an employee at Walmart. Walmart fired him. Shame on Walmart. But I want to say that we hired him. He works for the City of Pico Rivera now. You know, we were elected to represent all residents of our cities. We were not elected to be selective. And for those of you, for those elected officials who remain silent, shame on you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Joel Fajardo, City of San Fernando. I'm so honored that the City of San Fernando has had the opportunity to have such a prominent voice in this discussion. Despite being the namesake of the San Fernando Valley, we are a city of 25,000 people. And when you enter the city of San Fernando, you see, first and foremost, the Cesar Chavez Monument, which is really a tribute to immigrants and labor rights. We've tried to carry that leadership and the vision of Cesar Chavez in everything that we do in the city of San Fernando. Throughout these raids, we've tried to provide assistance to the immigrant community by hosting events such as Know Your Rights, connecting with MABA, providing food support, financial assistance, as well as housing for those in need. And what I've gathered most from many of the people here and from what I've seen in our community, it's that it's not just the elected officials who are taking an important role in this fight. It really is a lot of the unelected community leaders, a lot of the activists who are holding us accountable. I think that they have been the voice of the community. They have made sure that we're doing everything in our power to help immigrants. And they're the ones out there day by day, going to Home Depots, being in the streets, posting on social media, being fearless. And so I really want to give all of those people recognition because they really have helped inform this debate. They really have helped unite all of us here together. And even in other, you know, there are other ways that people have helped too. I know that a local school in San Fernando, when they get word of an ICE raid, one of their staff members actually goes patrolling the city until they have identified where ICE was or that ICE has left. And so they found ways of resisting without necessarily having to interact with ICE, but still being passive resistance. And so while there's still much work for us to do, I'm excited to be here to learn from my colleagues. I think that there's a lot of great narratives here and to also be able to share what the City of San Fernando has done. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. I'm John Heilman. I'm the mayor of the City of West Hollywood, and I want to first thank Mayor Bass for her leadership in bringing us together, and I also want to thank the panelists that we haven't heard from yet. I know your organizations. I know the work you do. You're out there helping people every day, so thank you for everything that you do. West Hollywood became a city in 1984. Shortly thereafter, in 1985, we declared ourselves a sanctuary city. We repeated that and reaffirmed that in 2017 in response to the first Trump administration. In 2023, we declared ourselves a sanctuary for transgender people, again in response to the relentless attacks from the federal administration. We have not been as heavily impacted by ICE raids as many of the other communities here. But we were impacted on the 4th of July when ICE came in and raided one of our car washes. And in response to that, our city council immediately provided funding for Know Your Rights panels. We provided funding for legal assistance as well as food assistance for families that were impacted. I know that this is a very, very important issue for all immigrants. I want to also point out for LGBT asylum seekers, it is especially problematic because if they are deported, they're going back to a country where they literally are going to get killed simply because of who they are. I'm proud that our city recently declared portions of our city ICE-free zones, and I know that other cities are doing that. And I look forward to us working together to continue this fight. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Bass, for hosting us and the Japanese Museum. My name is Ali Saleh, the mayor of the city of Bell. La ciudad de Bell es una comunidad inmigrante de Latinos y Libanese. It's a community with diverse immigrants that includes Latinos and Lebanese. We had a situation in June where they raided one of our car washes, and subsequently we had a big group of people that showed up, thankfully, to push them out of our community. As Arturo was mentioning, Jorge's house, a few days later, his door was basically blown up because of what they did, not because of what he did. These impacts are not only in Bell. We've had other situations in neighboring cities in Southeast Los Angeles, also known as Sela. Let's not forget the mom and pop businesses in our communities that are struggling to keep their doors open and maintaining the jobs for our community. You know, I for one saw a situation a couple of months ago right in front of me where they raided a Home Depot, and an older gentleman with situation where he was running away from them and got hit by a car. These situations is not only in Huntington Park or in the city of Bell, but all around the country. And I'm happy to be here today to listen to the testimonies from our community, from our fellow colleagues on working together and seeing what we can do to help fight this, what's going on in our community.
The Pledge of Allegiance states that this country is indivisible and that it offers liberty and justice for all. However, with everything that we're seeing today, in this point in time, it really makes me question whether this administration is truly honoring that promise. I'm Miguel de la Rosa, mayor for the city of Bell Gardens. And cities like Bell Gardens and my neighboring cities are in the front lines. Families are being torn apart. And just recently, a father and his son were getting ready to go to work. They were getting ready. They were exiting their home. And they got ambushed, detained, and kidnapped. This left their family with the struggle of having to pay rent. They had to find ways to make a daily living. It's catastrophic. In another case, a mother was on her way to go pick up her children from school till she got kidnapped. This is destabilizing our communities from the inside out. And in Bell Gardens, we have helped those impacted residents with legal resources, rental assistance, utilities assistance. And there's much more to do, and that's why we're all here today. And we're holding the line. Our communities are strong, they're resilient, they're hardworking, and they're loving. And amidst all this, we must remember that hate will not make America great again. Bell Gardens will continue to stand to support its residents, side by side, providing every resource possible. And let it be known that in Bell Gardens, the only type of ice we like in our city is in the form of raspado. Thank you so much. And with that, I will yield to the proceeding of the hearing.
Good morning to Mayor Bass, fellow elected officials, community leaders, and residents. I'm Emma Sharif, and I am honored to serve as the mayor of the city of Compton. Thank you, Mayor Bass, for bringing us together to have this important conversation. In Compton, the impact of recent federal immigration enforcement actions has been very real for our community. We've heard from families who are afraid to leave their homes to go to the grocery store or attend city events. Parents have told us they are scared to walk their children to school or allow them to take public transportation. In some cases, families have kept their kids home from school altogether because of fear and uncertainty about what might happen in our neighborhood. Now, let me just give you a little bit of a picture in regards to that. We have a population of 100,000. There are approximately 100,000 people in my community, in my city. and 60% of that is Latino population. So when that fear they have really does impact what is happening there tremendously, especially when you're afraid to take your children to school for them to get an education. We have also saw confusion and growing distrust when it came to law enforcement. Many residents were unaware about the difference between federal immigration authorities and law and local law enforcement. And that uncertainty created fear in situations where people should feel safe for asking for help. As a city, we grew to have to respond to many that supported our residents and made sure people had access to accurate information and real resources. In addition, the city created an emergency response alert system so residents can receive real-time notifications when verified immigration enforcement activity occurs in our area. This helps ensure our community receive factual information quickly instead of relying on rumors that can spread more fear. Because at the end of the day, our responsibility as local leaders is simple. Every family in our city should feel safe sending their children to school, accessing services, and participating in community life. And in Compton, we will continue to stand with our community and with leaders across this region to ensure that every family, no matter where they come from, can live without fear and with the dignity and opportunity they deserve. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Pomona Mayor Tim Sandoval, and I want to express my thanks to Mayor Bass for bringing us together. In Pomona, all of the stories that you have shared, those are the very same things that are happening in our community. But I want to situate this process, what we're doing here today, which is a public hearing, and why it is so important for us to tell our personal narrative, our stories, because they move people. They change people's views. They reveal the atrocities and the terror and the fear that is happening in our communities. And so that is why we're here, is to hear those stories. They're essential to the change that we see happening as a result of what has been shared. I will tell you, just in Pomona, our community members have responded. We were able to raise over $500,000 to help community members who cannot pay their rent, cannot pay their utilities, children who are living in absolute fear that perhaps their parents won't be home when they get back at the end of a school day. But I will just say that the response from our communities has been amazing. I can tell you that, in fact, there's quite a few Pomona people who are here that I'm looking at, but city government cannot do this by ourselves. It has to be a collaboration, working together with our community organizations, our activists, our residents, our business community. And so I look forward to hearing the stories that are coming forth. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Joshua Barone, Mayor for the City of Southgate. And I was just speaking with Mayor Bass about what a turn of events. We were supposed to be celebrating the city of Los Angeles and all the amazing things that are about to happen in our communities. And yet these last few years have been completely turned upside down because of one administration's wish to really hurt our communities. In Southeast Los Angeles, we've felt it the most. We've seen our communities just turned upside down. Huntington Park, Cudahy, Bell Gardens, Bell, we've seen it hit the hardest. Our community has seen our businesses attacked. One of our community businesses is going to be here to testify today. Our business owner, Yancy Lopez, arrived to see ICE agents entering their business where it was labeled employees only. They didn't care. They went right in, barged into their business, grabbed their employee, without even any hesitation, pushed the business owner and grabbed the employee and went away. Now, that's not the America that we know. And it shouldn't be the America that we allow to continue. So we need to continue to tell these stories, and we need to continue to make change on what we're seeing today. You know, this is something that's going to impact our communities for years to come. We just finished our mid-year budget review, and we're seeing in a city like us, in the city of Southgate, that is so sales tax, you know, reliant. You know, our sales tax numbers are way down to what we needed to be, which means less services, less programs for our community, less resources to be able to provide to our city. And those are all questions that we all need to be, you know, answering for. And we have to figure out those solutions, and we have to tell, you know, our government that they need to do some differences. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of the mayors. I did want to offer Councilmember Ray Soto from Linwood an opportunity to say a few words, and then we'll move into our first panel.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, and thank you, Mayor Karen Bass, for hosting this hearing and giving us the opportunity to speak on behalf of our community. My name is Rita Soto, council member for the city of Linwood, where I also had the honor of serving as mayor in 2025. I'm here to represent our residents, hardworking families who are deeply rooted in our community, and to add Linwood's voice to this important regional conversation. I'm here to make sure the voices and concerns of Linwood's families are heard. While Linwood has not had confirmed reports of residents being taken from their homes or public spaces, the fear of raids has been real. ICE agents have been active in our city and neighboring communities, and even the possibility of raids change our people's lives, their daily lives. Fear does not wait for a knock on the door. It moves quietly, touching children, parents, and neighbors alike. I remember those days clearly. I will drive through our neighborhoods and go live on social media to reassure residents and let them know what was actually happening in our city. I also met with nonprofit organizations to connect and collaborate and support of our community during these difficult times. It showed me how much good we can do when we work together. Families in Linwood are already feeling the impact. Children are staying home from school. Residents are avoiding public spaces and community events. People who once participated in a civic life are now afraid to engage. Despite these challenges, the people of Linwood continue to show resilience, compassion, and a strong sense of community. This is not just an immigration issue. It becomes a public safety, public health, and community issue. Linwood is a city of working families. Our residents pay taxes, raise their children here, and contribute to the vitality of our region. They deserve to live without fear. Linwood stands with families across the region. We are here today because silence is not an option. Our residents need to know their elected officials are fighting for them, and Linwood will continue to stand with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and let me just thank all of the mayors and representatives from their cities that are here today. We have stood in solidarity with each other for the last year, and actually many of our cities, if not most, were working together even before that on our joint issues such as homelessness. So all of your testimony again will be sent in because it's very important for the country to understand that, especially when Los Angeles is used, that Los Angeles County is 88 cities. And each of our cities have different circumstances, but what we all have in common is experiencing this egregious moment in our history. So the rest of the morning will be comprised of two panels. The first panels are community leaders representing organizations that are on the front lines. And our second panel will be community members, each of whom have been directly impacted, either themselves or their families. Jocelyn Duarte, Executive Director of SALIF, the Salvadorian American Leadership and Education Fund. And just let me point out that Jocelyn was the Women of Impact honoree this year. I appreciate all of your work and was honored that you were the recipient on the behalf of the City of Los Angeles. Angelica Salas, Executive Director of CHIRLA, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights in LA. We have worked together for many, many years. Megan Ortiz, Executive Director of IDEPSCA, the Institute of Popular Education of Southern California, and Memo Torres, the Director of Engagement from LA Taco. Please begin, Jocelyn. And then after the presentation from the panelists, then the mayors will have an opportunity to ask questions for 10 minutes before we move on to the next panel.
Good morning, everyone. Very thankful to have the opportunity to be here with you all today to share with you some of the experiences of the community members that I have the opportunity to serve on a daily basis. My name is Dr. Jocelyn Duarte, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Salvadoran American Leadership and Educational Fund, known as SALEF. I am the proud daughter of a Salvadoran immigrant mother and a Guatemalan father who both fled civil wars in their countries in the late 70s and early 1980s. Now, the organization that I have the honor to lead has, for the past 3 decades, worked to empower immigrant families through education, leadership development, and community support across Los Angeles and beyond. Today, I want to speak to you about the human impact of these mass deportations in our communities. Behind every enforcement action is a family and a consequence that ripples far beyond the individual who is detained. Historically, we know that mass deportations have a profound consequence on families in our communities for generations, as many of you have shared your own experiences today, and as where we are sitting today. Behind every detention and deportation is not just one person, it is an entire household that experiences fear, instability, and economic hardship. Children are left wondering whether their parents will come home. Families must suddenly navigate legal systems that they do not fully understand, and in many cases, the detention of a family member immediately leads to financial crisis. At SALEF, we have responded to this reality by expanding our Know Your Rights education and family preparedness planning. We want to ensure that families have tools and information necessary to protect themselves during immigration enforcement actions. Through the ALMA app, the Immigrant Apoyo Legal Migrante y Alerta app, powered by PTAP, we have not only have a function that alerts family members and a point of contact if a family member is detained, but it is also a digital platform that provides families with critical information about how to respond during encounters with the immigration authorities, how to locate a detained loved one, and how to get in contact with legal services and also community services. To date, the ALMA app has reached 46,344 individuals, reflecting actually a transnational nature of this immigration enforcement and family separation chaos that we're experiencing. Downloads have not only occurred across LA County, but across the United States, and including Mexico and El Salvador, where families are urgently seeking for information about detained relatives and pathways to legal assistance. In addition to our digital outreach, SALEF conducted in-person and virtual educational events throughout our county of Los Angeles,
focusing primarily on combining our Know Your Rights and our family preparedness. Through these efforts, we have empowered over 7,000 people, individuals. So that means that it's in even bigger spans when we talk about families across, as I mentioned, across the county of Los Angeles, with our practical tools regarding preparing emergency plans for family, identifying guardians for children if parents are detained, organizing important documents, and access to trusted legal and community support. Combined, these efforts have allowed us to reach more than 60,334 individuals who have sought out this information, protecting strategies and guidance during time of this very much heightened fear and uncertainty. However, the consequences of immigration enforcement extend beyond legal challenges. They often lead to immediate housing instability. When a family member is detained, particularly a primary wage earner, households suddenly lose income, they need to pay their basic living expenses. This is especially devastating for families that are of mixed status. One person who is detained can destabilize an entire household. So in response to this very urgent need, Salif launched a rental assistance program with seed money from council member Tracy Park that represents the Council District 11 in Los Angeles. That seed money was $600,000. This was designed specifically to support families impacted by immigration enforcement and sudden loss of income. Our work has focused primarily in Council District 11 and has expanded with an additional $100,000 to Council District 1 and 9. This has also, I would like to mention that this was private funding. This is where we have seen that most immigrant families have been disproportionately affected by enforcement actions and economic instability. Since launching our efforts, we've had about 516 families connect with us, and this is the latter part of 2025, seeking additional resources and assistance when it comes to rental assistance. We have noticed that families are needing between 2 to 3 months of rental assistance in order to be able to stabilize their living situation and avoid eviction. While we have seen families in all 3 council districts, but the greatest need has really emerged from Council District 1 and 9, where many immigrant households face significant economic vulnerability. Through this initiative, it has been very crucial to connect families to our city family source centers, which provide additional pathways to support services such as financial counseling and other programs that allow them to stabilize their living situation. These partnerships have been very crucial in ensuring that families are not only able to remain housed, but are also connected to long-term universal programs that will help them uplift themselves from poverty. Without these interventions, many families would face the very real possibility of eviction, displacement, and homelessness, compounding additional trauma already experienced through detention and family separation. So for this reason, I urge you as policymakers in this room to continue expanding, investing in community-based organizations that provide Know Your Rights, family preparedness, planning, and housing stabilization. We want to make sure that tools like Alma, this app, can continue to go beyond having workshops, but making sure that we have at the fingertips of our community member essential tools that would allow them to respond with knowledge, preparedness, and dignity during the moments of crisis. Our communities are resilient, but they cannot navigate these challenges alone. By supporting programs that protect families, expand access to information, and stabilize households during this time of crisis, we help ensure that immigrant families remain safe, informed, and housed. Salif stands ready to continue this work alongside our community partners, leaders like yourselves. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to protecting the well-being and the dignity of families that we serve.
Angelica Salas.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. The first thing I really want to do before I start is to thank each and every one of you because we have worked with many of you in this crisis that our community is facing. So I just really want to appreciate the partnership with each one of you. Many of you as mayors, we call you when things are difficult, you call us. So just really want to say thank you. Good morning. My name is Angelica Salas. I am the Executive Director of the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. Our mission is to create a just society fully inclusive of immigrants. We have organized and served the immigrant community for the past 40 years. And in my 30 years of experience working at CHIRLA, I have never witnessed or experienced the overwhelming, aggressive, racially motivated, or illegal arrests that now have become the norm in Southern California. CHIRLA runs a rapid response network for the greater Los Angeles region. It has received over 14,300 calls to its hotline from throughout LA, our entire region, reporting immigration enforcement in our neighborhoods. In our documentation process, we have captured 42 neighborhoods that have been hit by raids. Some of the areas that have been the most impacted have been in the area of the San Fernando Valley, with 13 operations that we have documented in that region. Next, Pico Rivera, Whittier, and Downey, 12 operations that have happened in that region. Next, Bell Garden, Southgate, and Cudahy, 10 operations that we have noted in that region. The Rapid Response Network has witnessed 477 arrests of individuals and is in contact right now, CHIRLA is in contact with over 1,200 families who have loved ones in detention. Of these families, we have completed 653 wellness surveys, and the following are some of the findings. 41% of the individuals are Mexican nationals, and the second highest are Guatemalans. 35% of them were detained at work. 12% of them were on their way or leaving from work. 64% have not secured legal representation. 98 of them have already been deported. 60% are facing food insecurity. 64% are facing housing insecurity. Close to 70% of them have dependents. And I want you to listen to this. 12% of the detainees were small business owners. 23% reported medical needs, with medical needs spanning diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer treatment, mental health conditions, and much more. 10 people that we have been in contact have actually perished in detention. Access to counsel continues to be a significant barrier to these families. The number of those arrested is so significant that our legal service providers are having a difficult time meeting the overwhelming need. At this moment, some families still have no idea where their loved ones are because people are being transferred from facility to facility without clear notification or transparency. It remains extremely difficult for attorneys to reach clients in detention. Frequent transfers, limited access, and inconsistent communication make it challenging for lawyers to provide even basic legal guidance to ensure that people understand their constitutional rights. Speaking with these families, we've learned that in some cases, detainees are only able to make phone calls between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning. These are limited and irregular hours to make it extremely difficult for families to stay informed. If a detainee is granted release on bond after their hearing, these bond amounts can range anywhere from $10,000 to $65,000. I'm extremely thankful for the city of Pico Rivera, who started a bond fund for its residents to support them in this. This is extremely burdensome and places a profound financial strain on households already experiencing housing instability and food insecurity. The Rapid Response Network, I will conclude very quickly. The Rapid Response Network has maintained continuous rapid response operations, dispatching volunteers in real time 7 days a week since June. We have not stopped. We're gathering and preserving evidence, including systematic and reviewing and scraping all our rapid response chat channels for documentation relevant to rights violations, patterns of enforcement, and legal follow-up. You asked what you can do. What you can do is continue to provide resources for our community's urgent needs, rental relief, stronger tenant protections, and reliable access to food and essential supplies for children. We're doing at CHIRLA comprehensive case management, and what we know is they need cash assistance programs. We're delivering food to over 600 families, distribution of food cards, and also linkage to internal mutual aid services. What you can do is have strong sanctuary policies. Cities across LA County, especially in the southeast Los Angeles and San Gabriel, where raids have been the most concentrated, should have ice-free zones and sanctuary ordinances. You need to limit the local police participation. Clear policies are urgently needed to limit when local law enforcement can respond to requests from federal immigration agencies. It is not acceptable that local police are seen anywhere participating in these operations that involve racial profiling, identity profiling, and infringe in First Amendment rights. And we need each and every one of you to support SB 1105, the Protect California's Rights Act. City should support Senator Sasha Perez's bill to prevent state and local police from helping ICE or Border Patrol interfere with the public's right to record, ensure police do not obstruct communication with detained individuals, and prohibit police from sharing information with federal agents. Finally, keep sharing the stories of your constituents and the impact on our cities. Many people think that the raids have stopped in the greater Los Angeles region, but they have not stopped. Let them know that this is not the case. Continue to demand accountability and to repair all that DHS has done to destroy our families and our neighborhoods. Thank
you. Megan Ortiz.
Good morning, all. Thank you so much. I'm Megan Ortiz, and I'm the Executive Director of the Instituto de Educación Popular del Sur de California, IDEPSCA. We are a worker-centered organization that works specifically with day laborers and household workers across the Los Angeles region, and we operate 5 of the Los Angeles city's official day labor centers. But I also will say, having all of the mayors and city council people here, we have residents from your neighborhoods who are constituents, our members, our jornaleros, our trabajadoras del hogar that also use our services and we consider part of our community. It is at this intersectionality of labor rights, health and safety protections, and workforce development that these day labor centers have been targeted very specifically. 3 of our day labor centers have been the site of 15 Border Patrol actions. These day labor centers, yes, are also co-located with a $1 billion corporation that is functioning in the city of Los Angeles and across the region, Home Depot. In those raids, 2 that happened in the same day, in Van Nuys specifically, we have seen hundreds of day laborers, street vendors, and their families kidnapped, disappeared. We have seen on 2 occasions Border Patrol detain 2 of our staff members, in one case disappearing them for 3 days without access to an attorney while they stayed in the downtown Federal Detention Center. In another situation, Border Patrol agents entered into the private property space of the day labor center through our site coordinator on the ground, permanently injuring him. I myself have been at 3 of these Border Patrol raids, having assault weapons pointed at me by men in tactical gear and masked who didn't identify themselves. The day labor community that we often know seeking work at home improvement stores are really the backbone of Los Angeles. We know that they support construction, household work. They are critical and had responded during the January 2025 wildfires and are part of the rebuild across Los Angeles. We also know that the consequences of the raids are far-reaching besides people being disappeared. We also know that family members, as it has been shared, struggle to pay rent. We have seen the children of those kidnapped now working as street vendors on the fruit carts that their parents used to work at in Home Depot parking lots. We also have seen how, unfortunately, day laborers are treated as disposable and usable when convenient by corporations and by politicians, which is why we also think it's really important that we have stronger policies against bad actors that allow their parking lots to be used as Hunger Game-esque battlegrounds while people are just trying to buy drywall. We have a unique opportunity today. All of you as leaders have powers of the purse and of policy. And just as community members have come together to create so many mutual aid networks, apps, legal support systems, we also ask for your imagination to go beyond the status quo, beyond what is easy and electable. Thank you for your time. And I just want to say, especially I'm thinking today of Capitan and Oscar, who are two of our long-term day labor members who are still in detention right now in Adelanto, and another one far from his family in Arizona. Thank you.
Memo Torres.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for having me here. My name is Memo Torres. I am a journalist with a local publication called LA Taco, and I have made it my personal task to document every single incident that's happened in the Los Angeles and now the whole Southern California area, because nobody else is doing it. So, thank you. Every incident you guys have referred to from your different cities, I documented. And oftentimes we were first to report. I have seen those names way too many times on my daily memos. So I'm not gonna get into the anecdotes and stories of like, you know, what people have experienced. Those stories, you guys are all obviously aware of them, and you're all are advocating for them. And I've also been very critical of many of you. I've also praised some of you, and I don't want to just stand here and be critical. I think this is a time that we need to move forward and learn from each other. And I've heard from many of you guys, what can we do? So right now we're at a point in Los Angeles area, immigration rates have slowed down, right? Border Patrol has left. They've gone back to the border, and right now we have ICE agents kind of remaining low-key and operating quietly. And as we're seeing from the administration, they don't want people talking about mass deportations, at least until the midterms, right? We're at a pause right now. So we can talk about what happened, and we can talk about that, but if we do, I want you guys to acknowledge the mistakes people have made, because oftentimes a lot of us got caught with our pants down. We didn't know what policies to pass. We didn't know how to react. We didn't know what to do. And right now we're at a moment where ICE is gearing up. There's 40 new vehicles at the Santa Ana field office. They just got a new office in Van Nuys, so another 40 vehicles there. We're seeing 40 vehicles at the Adelanto Detention Center and another fleet at California City. Something's coming. So do you guys want to get caught again without knowing what to do, or do you want to prepare right now, right? I am so proud of the community out there, the rapid response networks. They're out there putting their bodies on the line every single day without support. Their own gas, their own time from work, a lot of them risking their jobs, their personal bodies getting arrested. So I think one of the biggest tasks, and it's been mentioned before, you guys need to figure out how to rein in your police departments. It's not right. None of us would be here today and would be aware of what's happening if it wasn't for all those citizens out there daily recording, documenting, responding, getting in front of these agents. We know this. I can do my reporting, and we can all be here because of those folks. So I urge you, first of all. And I also urge responders, if you're listening to me, I know you're critical. I know you're mad. Everybody's mad at each other because we don't know what we're doing, and we're trying to figure this out, and everybody's been making mistakes. So I want you guys to reach out to the community members that are out there on the front lines. Bring them in from your own personal cities and ask them, how can we help? And I want your responders to honestly approach them one-on-one. Leave the past behind us. Let's figure out how we can work together, move forward, because that's necessary. There's policies being made, like she mentioned, bills being passed in the Senate to try to tighten up SB 54. I think police need more definition. I think a lot of police officers want to know what they can do. Some of them think they are ICE. They see themselves as birds of a feather. We need to draw stricter lines. I think people need to pass policies like Hilda Solis. She had a great ordinance where she provided $5.1 million to help over 1,100 small businesses affected by ICE. I've gone into restaurants, and I have a personal relationship with a lot of restaurants because I used to be a food writer before I covered ICE. And they tell me, like, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday used to be our days. Now they're like, we're lucky if we get one day a month. They're struggling. I've talked to fruit vendors out there. Sometimes I stop by and there's nobody there. I'm concerned. Were they taken? No, they're hiding in the car because they don't know who the customer is. who's driving by what vehicle. And I'll end it with this quote. And I want you guys to really, really seriously consider making this a priority because, as Mayor Southgate mentioned, your tax revenue is disappearing. And the more time you wait, the less resources you're going to have to do something. So make this a priority because this is your number one priority for all cities. The one quote I want to end you with is the one time I was calling a car wash to try to verify a rate and try to get information as to how many people got taken, what agencies. And the guy just ended it with like, you know, man, we live and work in fear every day. And that's the status of our city right now. So I challenge you guys and the responders, everybody, bygones be bygones, figure out your mistakes, don't get caught with your pants down again. Everybody needs to work together. That's it.
Well, let me just thank each of the panelists, first and foremost, for being here this morning, for investing the time, but also for the work that you do day in and day out, and work that started many, many years ago. And again, as Angelica said, we've never seen anything like this, as egregious as this, but it just goes to show you what, at least I'm fearful of what's to come of this administration. We're going to open it up. We're going to spend 10 minutes with questions from the panelists, from the mayors. We want to be quick with this so we can get to the next panel. But let me just begin quickly. This is kind of to all of you. You know, in addition to the raids, there's other policies they're putting in place. For example, HUD saying that mixed status families now can no longer be in public housing. What's scary about this is that they know who all the mixed status families are because they've been paying extra to be there. And now they're saying they have to go, which makes that whole sector very vulnerable. And I was just wondering, are you seeing anybody contacting your organizations now because of HUD's new policy?
So we run the Immigrant Assistance Hotline. So we are receiving phone calls of individuals who are just concerned about what does this policy mean and when will it go into effect. So definitely on that. But they're calling about all the different changes in policy. For example, this morning in the press conference, we talked about the World Cup and also you know, with FIFA and people traveling, there's a lot of individuals who do not have, who can't continue their processes because they're one of many of the countries that are now deemed not eligible to continue any of these processes. I want to really lift up what's happening at LAUSD. We have documented teachers who are impacted right now, and this is going to happen in all your school districts because right now with the shutdown, there is no advancement on any of the work permits for some of the individuals. And so what you're having are individuals who are being told that they have to stop working because DHS or USCIS is not moving forward with their work permits. But it's people with TPS, people with DACA, and it includes people in every single sector. So what they want to do, and I'll finish with this, is what they want to do is make people who have DACA, who have TPS, who have another form of protected status undocumented, and because they know their addresses and where they live, go after them. That is why we've had 270 DACA folks deported already. But right now, I want you to really be thoughtful and not just say, oh, your permit has expired, but to understand that it is an administrative a manner by which to enforce, and these individuals should be given some level of grace period to fix this situation as we advocate, as we actually try to defend our community in the courts as well.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add really quickly that what we're seeing on our end is that we have landlords that are refusing to actually take the money, the rental assistance that we're providing. They do not want to fill out any forms. They're trying to find ways in which they can displace these families. In addition to that, we've also seen at the county level, we have seen workers in the county provide misinformation in regards to public charge and providing family members with eligibility documents to be able to help them complete fee waivers. As we know, if you want to be, you want to renew your residency card or become a citizen, you're eligible for the I-912. And so we're seeing some of the county workers provide misinformation in regards to providing these eligibility documents, and now families are fearful of receiving whatever little assistance, whether that might, if they're still on Medi-Cal and or receiving CalFresh.
Dr. Duarte, I'm sorry, if I may. What's the reason for the landlords to not take that information? Are they just trying to displace them so they can rent it at a higher rate? Is that what?
I think essentially that's what it is, because either they'll cite that they received COVID relief money, and even though they might have 1 or 2 months back rent and that they're making payments, they're just refusing not to provide their information and not filling out the documents to be able for them to receive the assistance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other mayors want to ask a question?
I just
Mayor
want,
Richardson.
Thank you, Mayor. So prior to this crisis, we already were dealing with a dual crisis of housing and homelessness, which was our collective focus as mayors. And a chief concern of mine is that we're going to see an exasperation of that challenge, because if folks can't go to work and they can't move freely through their communities, it affects their economy, their household income, and you know the story. Most recently, there has been a new resource through Measure A in La Casa, a board we're all part of and I chair, to deploy new rental protection dollars. And I know that Angelica Chirla is one of the initial grantees. It would be helpful, I think, for this group of mayors to hear how you plan to help support immigrant communities and to encourage other jurisdictions who have these resources to deploy them in a way that helps provide some bit of safety net for these families in this moment. I know we can't out-resource the federal government, but we have to be strategic and smart on how we do deploy our local resources.
So we've already assisted over 2,000 individuals with rental assistance. Both from the fires and from ICE enforcement. We have families that actually have been impacted by both. Mm-hmm. And so how we're going to do it is we already have a database of families that have family in detention to really focus on those individuals that we know are being impacted. And so it's important also to just work with us and say, this is a family. Many of you actually refer people directly to us from your cities. So make sure that you refer in order for us to be able to quickly get that those dollars out to the individuals, because it really matters. 1 month, sometimes it's like $500, $1,000 can make all the difference whether a person is housed or not. So that's the way we're going to do it. Targeted outreach. And also we're a safe place. So people come and it's a place where people can say, look, this is what's going on and this is my immigration status. The other thing that I want, work with your school districts. You have a lot, especially your high schoolers, you have a lot of children who are working now because their parents are actually either detained or are just really stretched. So it's important for us to also outreach in the high schools to talk to the students, especially when you have high schools where you have unaccompanied minors or others. Work with your young people, because right now they're taking on the responsibilities of adults. So on the housing front, we're working in certain high schools and with LAUSD to work directly with the students in order to support them, so that number one, they get the housing support, but they stay in school. That they recognize that it's so important to stay in school, and that we'll support them so that they can continue forward.
I have a follow-up question to that. My husband is an LAUSD teacher. He works here in downtown for Roybal Learning Center High School. And, he comes home and he tells me stories about how many of his students are impacted. They don't have moms and dads at home, And like you mentioned, that they have to work or they don't know where to go for financial assistance. They don't know how they're going to pay for the rent. They are jumping from house to house, whether that's their uncle, their cousin, whoever can take them in and whoever has those resources. He tells me these stories as a teacher, as an educator. How would you all suggest that as council members, as mayors for the city, how do we provide resources directly to those students, and how do we collaborate with the educators in the classroom, and how do we collaborate with the principals?
LA County, for example, has a program where we've been able to give financial aid directly to students. And so it could be because their computer broke down and they can't repair it because they need it for housing. It really is about supporting them. So I really think it's important for you to work with, and I would say work with your teachers, work with your principals, and really think about creating funds for these students in order for them to be able to be supported in this moment. And also to just, for students, signage that says this is a safe place matters, so that they can be able to even ask the question and even come to you, letting you know that they need help.
And I think just thinking ahead also about what we know is going to come again, the next wave of raids, is also how do we think ahead and prepare and do intensive case management before. When I started as executive director at EDEBSCA 12 years ago, 30% of our day laborers identified as houseless. Right now, that's 50%.
Wow.
Many of those workers who were deported, detained over the last year, were living in their cars. And one of the reasons why we can't get them out is because their family members are in other countries, and we don't have anyone to sponsor them here. So I think we also need to think about how we deal with the issue of wage theft, because the day labor average income annually is about $19,000 a year. And that's not counting the impact of the wildfires and obviously the ICE raids that have had on hiring and on the industry in general. So I think also we need to think, we can't think of immigration and housing as separate things, right? We can't think of immigration and workforce development as different things. All of these things are interconnected, and we need to treat them that way for everyone.
I want to add just real quickly, what we're seeing too right now is we're seeing the long-term effects of the raids. So like the housing, the kids, people that are actually leaving detention are finding themselves without a job or without a home. So just keep in mind to keep a lookout for what are these long-term effects that we're starting to barely see right now.
So we have time for
Mayor.
2 more comments from the panel, and then we need to switch panels. Mayor Sandoval and Mayor Akana.
Mayor Bass mentioned earlier that there are 88 cities in LA County with varying levels of additional rent control from state law. It seems to me that the state can take action that would impact every city in the state of California. And I'm wondering what you're hearing, what you're seeing, because to me that seems like something that we could all get behind, about how do we make sure we keep people in their homes. And if the state takes that action, it doesn't just impact Pomona, where we have not a strong enough rent stabilization program, right? But there's so many other communities that have an absence of it. And so I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that's been a fight at the state level for a really long time, because the challenge we have across LA and across all of the cities is that everyone, yes, wants lower housing costs, but not in my neighborhood, right? So we got to get really clear and get really real about that, because everyone's yes in my backyard as long as it's actually your backyard. So I think, thinking about how we do rent control on a statewide level, and really so that it impacts, sorry, not sorry, all communities. So that means if your multi-million-dollar home is going to lose a few $100,000 in property value, that's okay, because we're going to need to house so many more people. So I think that also needs to be part of the strategy, which I haven't seen. How are we going to fight back against those not in my backyard, but still well-meaning housing policy for all?
Okay, so you
We're
mentioned.
going to hear from you, and then we're going to switch panels.
Thank you so much. You mentioned capture operations. Could you expand on what that actually looks like on the ground? What kind of tactics or actions are included in those operations, the capture operations? And how have ICE operations evolved over time? If you can expand on that,
Sure.
please.
So we've been, actually, the Rapid Response Network has been around since 2006 because immigration enforcement has happened throughout this time. We need legalization. We need to legalize the millions of people who are undocumented in this country. But how have they changed? So what we've seen, there's always been abuse, but what we've seen is more of what we call targeted enforcement, going to people's homes, and some sort of warrants, sometimes, not completely where they're supposed to be. We've done so much litigation against this, but that's really what happened. And then when it came to enforcement, we would respond to worksite raids. One raid, one factory, one location, and then we deal with that. And then time would pass and we would have another one. What we have never seen is all in one day, 6, 7 operations. I mean, Memo can tell you about days where over 150 people have been detained. That I've never seen. The racial profiling, the racist manner in which this is happening, this is against our Constitution, violating equal protection of the law. Basically, if you're brown and you're black, you're going to be stopped because there's an assumption about your immigration status. The other thing that I need you all to know is excessive use of force. People are being beaten up. They're breaking their legs. They're breaking their arms. That's why folks are ending up in Glendale Hospital and Harbor Medical, because they beat them so badly. And then because they know rapid responders will be there to document, what they do it is so quickly so that they grab people, they snatch them, they hurt them, they beat them, they throw them on the concrete floor. We have people with broken, it's just so bad, amputations of arms. This is what's going on right now. I have never seen anything like that. That's how it's changed. It's violent, it's illegal, and it is racist at its core.
Super racist.
Thank you.
I also want to mention, I think if you don't know the different organizations, you guys need to study up. ICE is used as a catch-all term. ICE is just one department. We've had Border Patrol, we have HSI, we have ERO. Sometimes they operate in tangent with ATF and DEA. There's also ISAP, which does check-ins. It's a separate program that's run by a private contractor. So there's all kinds of stuff out there, and I can sit you guys all down and educate you all. They all operate differently, they all do different stuff, but they're all assholes. Sorry.
Thank you.
And I think Arturo had a question.
I was going to say there's been a huge fight with the face masks. Senator Renee Sasha Perez passed SB 805, the No Vigilantes Act, which Mayor Bass mentioned that the courts was being challenged in the courts. What other laws are our local law enforcement just not fighting, not putting up a front? Because I know that that's a face mask, which is the most important one, which is you have to know who it is that's committing these crimes to hold them accountable, right? That's why that's a huge fight. But what other laws are us as a local PD allowing federal agents to operate with impunity that allows them to operate essentially freely without us even putting up a fight? Like, what's the federal government? Is there any other trends that you can name off top that we need to start looking at when it comes to our local PD and enforcement?
And before you answer, I just want to add, we're in budget season, and all of these law enforcement contracts are about to ask for raises. Okay, for their lawsuits, they're about to ask for more money to cover all the lawsuits against them, and they're about to ask for more money for their salaries, even though they will report that their service calls are down because people are scared to call them for actual crimes in the city. So I think it's really important to be clear what we can do as far as ordinance. I'm in contract cities. It'd be great if all the contract cities here got together and demanded certain expectations in our sheriff's contract. I know it's not up till 2029, but they're gonna come asking for money now, not 2029 when the contract is up. And so we need to know, what could we do? What could we say that they have to do as paid law enforcement, especially not going against Angelica about them coming and actually supporting ICE. But if they do show up, how should they be showing up given that we're paying them?
So after Memo responds, we're going to switch and go to the next panel.
All right, cool. Because I'm glad to leave now, but
You can stay.
all right, I'll stay. No, listen. There's a repeated pattern with all police departments that are coming to the aid of ICE or Border Patrol, whoever whenever a community watcher is kind of following and documenting them or showing up to a scene of a raid. The common theme is that police come and immediately backs to the ICE agents, fronts to the community members. They'll push the community members. They will at times they'll give them tickets that are bullshit. I've seen it on videos where like the guy's like, you're missing a front license plate. Meanwhile, the DHS doesn't have license plates. I've seen them get their cars towed. Their cars getting towed. I've seen them getting tickets. I've seen them getting arrested, handcuffed. It's constantly the police respond to make sure that they stop community members, and I think it's hypocritical for LAPD to say we can't impede on or interact with immigration enforcement, but they can impede with community members doing all this community watch. So that's the biggest common thing that I see, and that's the biggest problem. Also seeing, I know there's instances where ICE and agents will be seen in parking lots of local city governments. Somebody here won't call you out right now. But why are you there at the police departments? Why are they talking with police people? We also know that sometimes, I think just the general, them seeing themselves as a bird of a feather. It's like, you're not. Who are you with? Are you with LA or not? And especially protests, and LAPD is the worst. They just love pulling out those big old fucking less lethals and shooting them at people like target practice. Like, do you really need to be funding all those less lethals and all those weaponry for them? Or can you use some of that money to, help with rent assistance and jobs and legal services? So,
Thank you. Well, let's have another round of applause for our panel. Thank you very much again for all that you do every day. We appreciate it very much. So let me call up the second panel. Bambi Salcido, the founder of the Trans Latino Coalition. Diego Mayen. Is Diego here? Yeah. Rapid response organizer from Organizing Rooted in Abolition, Liberation, and Empowerment, otherwise known as Orale. Reverend Tanya Lopez, senior pastor from the Downey Memorial Christian Church, and Yancy Lopez, the owner of Got Towels and Uniforms. So can we begin with Diego Mayen?
Yeah, hello, thank you everyone. My name is Diego Mayen. I'm the Rapid Response Organizer with Orale, Organizing Rooted in Abolition, Liberation, and Empowerment. I connect families to essential resources like the Long Beach Justice Fund and Orale Solidarity Fund. The immigrant community in Long Beach has been targeted based off the language they speak, the occupation they hold, and honestly the color of their skin. When someone is detained, it has lasting ripple effects on not only the person who's detained, but also the family that is left behind. I've spoken with a lot of families who oftentimes lose their jobs because they have to keep up with going to visit detention centers, going to have to find lawyers for their court cases. And sometimes in the worst cases, families often will choose to self-deport because they can't afford to pay rent anymore. They can't afford to keep up with legal fees. People in detention centers will choose to self-deport because the conditions are just so terrible. Over the past year, Orale alone has referred over 92 people to the Long Beach Justice Fund, which is a public fund that's aimed to give public representation to folks who are in deportation proceedings. But the money has run out because the need is so high. Like I mentioned, there's 92 people who have received a referral, but only a couple of them have been able to receive legal representation. And our hotline has received over 600 calls from cities all over, not only Long Beach, but also cities from calls from San Pedro, Compton, Wilmington, Hawthorne, and of color are really scared right now. They haven't been going to grocery stores, they haven't been going to doctor's appointments, because just living their public lives has run a risk of them being detained by ICE. And communities have really been stepping up to defend each other, whether it's like documenting, creating rapid response networks, creating mutual aid networks, but these efforts often put a target on people's backs. We have seen a lot of increased aggression against documenters, against families who are trying to talk to their community members who are being taken. In Long Beach, we saw ICE agents brandishing assault weapons at bystanders and threatening to use them on them if they were to step any closer or continue recording. So what we need, and communities of color really need, is for cities to step up and use all of their power that they have to stop the federal government's onslaught on the immigrant communities. Cities need to provide resources for mental health, financial assistance and for lost wages, assistance for legal support, because our members of our communities really can't even go to work or go to grocery stores or even go to receive essential resources that they need. So communities need cities to enact stronger sanctuary policies that are enforceable so ICE can stop terrorizing our city, because we need all, like some of the previous panelists have mentioned, there's just so much that goes into when someone's life is affected so much by so many different ways that you might not think of, whether it's loss of wages, access to mental health resources, access to health resources. So we just really need all of those resources to come together and come from cities to be able to close the loop on defense against ICE and defense against the federal government. Thank you.
Reverend Lopez.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to share with each of you. My name is Reverend Tanya Lopez, and I'm the senior pastor of Downey Memorial Christian Church in the city of Downey. I'm also a native of Southeast LA, and so a lot of the cities are the cities that I grew up in that are represented here, and I am also a mother. On Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, when 3 unmarked SUVs sped into the parking lot of my church, not only was my life and my daughter's lives forever impacted by witnessing an abduction as a result of roving raids that were happening that summer, but our entire community has been deeply impacted and affected. And that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of the harm and pain that has been perpetuated against the man that was disappeared. On June 11th, which was a Wednesday afternoon, I was working in my office. My daughters were with me because they were off for the summer. And another staff member noticed that there were 3 cars speeding into our parking lot. He said that there was something happening, and so I stepped outside to see what was going on, only to find 3 fully masked men wearing jeans, t-shirts, vests that had iron-on patches that read police on top of them, and makeshift utility belts that I asked them where did they get those, because they look like they could be ordered from Amazon. They were standing over a man that had been zip-tied and who was now sitting on the floor. 2 other men began to approach us, and another 3rd man was keeping watch. So there were 6 in total, not counting those that could have been in the car. I identified myself immediately as the senior pastor of the church and asked what they were doing, who they were detaining, and why. I got no answers. Instead, I was only repeatedly asked to leave, being told I had no permission to be on the premises, even after I told them I was the pastor of that church. I told them that this was private property and they could not be on the premises, and they told me that the whole country was their property. After I attempted to approach the man with my phone to take pictures and document, and then to see if he would share a phone number or the name of a loved one in Spanish, because I am bilingual, a first-generation daughter of immigrants myself, I was met with a large rifle that was waved in my face, as well as in the face of other observers that had heard what was going on, and commanded to step back. I had no idea at this point that my daughters had been witnessing everything unfold from the office door. After they sped away with the man, I returned to my office where my 2 daughters were sobbing, thinking that I was going to get shot and killed in front of them. Our church has since lost members, and not only my church, but many churches around our city and even synagogues and mosques have people no longer attending because they do not feel safe. I have been part of several other rapid response networks, including some of the ones that we've already heard testify, because we know that there is so much that is happening and people turn to their faith in times of great crisis. The emotional toll that this has taken on me has been heavy and has impacted my family and the entire community that I support, not just my congregation, but across the Los Angeles region and even in the Inland Empire, as I do serve as part of several rapid response networks. I am currently being treated for PTSD and helping to support my daughters integrate the trauma that they witnessed. I pray that this man, that I have no idea what happened to him, is okay, and that we continue to work together to hold this administration accountable. These raids must end, and so must the inhumane, violent, and racist policies that make this possible, because they have not stopped. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Yancy Lopez, and I run a family-owned business in the city of Southgate. I'm here today because the current deportation system violently entered my workplace and changed my life in 3 minutes. On January 22nd, 2026, I was physically assaulted inside my business by unidentified Border Patrol agents, and my coworker was profiled and taken. That Thursday at 9:03 a.m., as I opened my car door, a masked man jumped out of a vehicle, opened my warehouse gate, and ran inside after my coworker. I didn't know who he was. When I tried to ask what was happening, another masked man forced his way onto my property. While I was trying to understand what was going on, I heard my coworker yelling, "Help, help, I can't breathe." In that moment, I ran towards him, but the man who had entered began pushing me into different objects inside my warehouse to stop me from getting to my coworker. When I finally reached him, I saw him pinned to the floor with the knee on his throat and chest. When I tried to help him, the man grabbed me, twisted my arm behind my back, and told me he was using excessive force because I was impeding an arrest. But no one showed a warrant. No one told me an arrest was being made. No one explained what was happening. When I tried to record what was happening, I was thrown against a metal rack. It wasn't until I saw the back of their vests as they were leaving that I realized they were federal agents. When I asked for badge numbers and names, no one responded. My coworker was taken without anyone telling us where we were going. It was actually community rapid response volunteers, not local PD, who arrived about 10 minutes after the incident. They were the ones who guided me, comforted me in the aftermath, and helped me figure out how to locate him at MDC. After being transferred between detention centers and disappearing for 9 days, he was deported after 15. In just 3 minutes, unidentified man entered my business, assaulted me, and took someone away, and no one is being held accountable. In those 3 minutes, my First Amendment right to record and my Fourth Amendment right protections were ignored. I was left with physical injuries and mental trauma that still affect me today. When I reported the assault to my local police department, I was told there was nothing they could do because the people involved were federal agents. If I were to trespass onto MDC property, I would be arrested on the spot. Yet the agents trespassed onto my private property without a warrant, assaulted me, and took my coworker. I was the only one left powerless. So I keep asking myself, how am I supposed to protect my customers, my coworkers, and my family if I couldn't even protect myself that day? I had private property signs. I asked who they were before they entered. I tried to do everything right. He was someone I worked with every day, but more than that, he was family to me. He wasn't a criminal or the worst of the worst, as this administration likes to say. He was a hardworking man with no vices, not even a parking ticket. We cannot keep allowing families to be torn apart and communities to live in constant fear. Local leaders cannot control federal immigration policies, but they can decide what kind of communities we live in. They can pass policies that protect residents and strengthen oversights in all our communities, especially heavily target areas like Sela. Because when people can enter workplace mass, use force, and take someone away without accountability, that should alarm everyone, every community in this country. And if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. Thank you for listening to my story.
Bambi Salcedo.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here before you. My name is Bambi Salcedo, and I am the president and the CEO of the Trans-Latino Coalition, which is the biggest translate organization in the United States. I want to thank the City of Los Angeles for the invitation for me to be here. They have been very intentional, right? Because I'm here to talk about something that we don't talk about as it relates to the immigration situations that is happening. Trans, gender expansive, and intersex people live in all of our cities, in all of our neighborhoods across the Los Angeles County. The Trans-Latino Coalition supports and centers Trans-Latino people. About 20 of our clients have been detained since last June when the craziness started here in our city. The thing is, like, they are not sent to Adelanto or any of the local detention centers. they are literally, they want to erase our community, right? And so our clients have been sent to Atlanta, to Arizona, to El Paso, to other places where it's hard to reach people. I want to also talk about a case. I just got a letter 2 days ago of a trans woman who was detained in immigration detention. Her name is Chamblis, and she was assaulted. She was sexually assaulted by one of the immigration officers in custody. So she's asking for support for a lawyer, right? And that is one of the challenges for us. We have to build networks in other places, and we have built networks. But we also know that lawyers are saturated with everything that is happening here and everywhere. And you know, how are we going to continue to support our community, right? I can tell you that in my own personal experience, I was detained in San Pedro detention. I was brutally attacked to the point where I was transported to an outside hospital to be treated for my injuries. The same issues that trans women experience in immigration detention that I experienced back then are the same issues that my sisters are experiencing today. I also want to say something that has not been said, and some of us already know that organizations who are doing this work are also being targeted, right? I can tell you that our organization has been named in Congress twice last year. We have been named a radical organization, and if providing support and services and to the most marginalized people is radical, then we are a radical organization. Our organizations are being surveilled. Our organizations are being targeted, are being videotaped, are being attacked specifically by extremist right-wing, conservative, extra-religious individuals. Our organizations have received bomb threats. Our organization, Fox News did an article on our organization, on myself, with hyperlinks. And so these are serious issues. And I just want to close by asking, right? Like, how is it that our local elected officials are going to not just support the people who are directly impacted by everything that is happening through immigration, but also the groups and organizations that are doing the work and putting their lives on the line to support our communities. So I want to encourage for all of us to really think about how we are going to continue to move forward and fight against this regime. Thank you.
Thank you very much, each of you, for your testimony. It's extremely important for us to hear directly from you and how it has an impact on you personally, but also your organization and businesses. We will now take about 10 minutes for questions from our mayors, if they have questions that they want to ask.
I'll jump in. So thanks for all your perspectives on the ground, and I appreciate the diversity and the points of view here, because from the LGBTQ community to the faith community, you all have communities within the community. I'm really curious on from the faith community standpoint. How is the organizing looking within faith-based communities? Are you seeing intersectional support across faith communities, similar to what we saw in the civil rights movement? How can mayors engage with their faith-based community to help support the activities on the ground?
Yeah, I'm actually part of several interfaith organizing groups, and most of us have been on the ground with organizations like Endelon, Chirla. We have been working with Carecen. We have a rapid response network that is interfaith leaders, so synagogue leaders, imams, Catholic priests, Protestant preachers, and even Buddhist monks and different people that are also non-religious, that are part of organizations like CLU, Clergy and Laity, United for Economic Justice, in addition to LA Voice and others. I have seen a huge wave of solidarity and of faith leaders coming to the aid of rapid responders. I actually have been contacted by Chirla myself to go to hospitals when there are those that have been impacted who are simply asking for prayer. And I can attest that their First Amendment rights to the right to practice their freedom of religion, to ask for a chaplain even in these hospitals, is not being respected. It's being completely denied. So I would also advocate for you to not just reach out to faith leaders, but also to reach out to the hospitals, to schools, because, and other that have been named, because they're not being allowed to even receive a Bible. Sometimes it's as easy as they're asking for a rosary. And these are just simple items that can be brought for a sense of spiritual care, a sense of accompaniment. I also have been going to hearings with people that have their check-ins because they're scared. They're scared to do the right thing. And part of what we believe as faith leaders is that showing up in our clerical attire, it does sort of help to remind even ICE agents and those at all of these different points of inflection of their own humanity, because we do practice nonviolence, but we do confront the injustice face first. And I would say look into those organizations and reach out to those that have been here, because a lot of them are already connected to some of the faith leaders that have been consistent at the actions here in downtown LA, but also in other cities, even as far as, like we've heard, San Diego, the Inland Empire. There are many people that are being impacted, and people turn to their faith in times of crisis. And so I do think that this is a time for faith leaders across traditions to unite. And I'm very encouraged that I have been seeing that. We need more. There is a whole specific side, like Bambi has mentioned, that has this white Christian nationalist movement. We are completely against that, and we are actually grieved that our tradition, especially Christianity, is being distorted against and used against vulnerable populations across the board. And so I am seeing it, and I'd be happy to share more. And those are just a few that I can name, but even from the other panelists, I'm sure they could share that there are many faith leaders that have been walking with them and also going to respond when the community is in need.
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Hold on, Councilmember Flores. Hold on a second. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Mayor Camacho.
Question is for Yancy, and as a business owner, you shared your experience, and you shared that you took certain measures to protect your employees and your customers. Unfortunately, they didn't work. Since that experience, I'm sure you met other business owners that have probably gone through some of that as well. Is there some best practices that you've learned that you could share with small businesses? In addition to that, what would you advise us to do to help small businesses supported from a local government?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely one thing is sanctioning, you know, like many of us are talking about. I mean, especially coming from Sela, I mean, I'm kind of impacted throughout, you know, different kind of counties, I guess you could say, cities. I lived in, you know, the San Fernando Valley. My business is in Southgate. I live in Bell, actually. So honestly, like just having sanctions as a business owner, a lot of us are seeing the effect of just not having that much revenue anymore. We're not seeing a lot of walk-in customers, especially in the industry that I am. I'm mainly in uniforms. We're talking about like mechanic uniforms. We're talking about like very like labor industry. We're seeing the effect, at least in our business area. Because of my experience, we've created a network of communities as business. So I would encourage a lot of you mayors to really go out and talk to your small businesses. I mean, there's so many small businesses right now living in fear right now, especially because we can't depend on local PD right now. So a lot of us are depending on each other, on communities. A lot of us have text chains. A lot of us are depending on rapid response, like, you know, Orale, I know Orale, Unión del Barrio, you know, a lot of these organizations are helping us keep up with protecting our business and all that.
I just want to add a little bit to that. We're not a like for-profit business, but I've seen that there are some relief efforts providing like $5,000 for business who have been impacted. But the reality is that what do $5,000 are going to do, right? When people have to pay high rents, when people have to stock or support people in different ways. So I would encourage for local governments to increase the amount of money to the best of your ability.
Can I just add also, going back to your point, I mean, because I think that's the thing. I did everything as a business owner to protect my business. I have many private property signs, even posted before you enter my warehouse gate. So the excuse that they didn't see any of these signs, I mean, even before I put my own body in between the federal agent and asked for a warrant, asked them for private property, letting them know my rights. I think it's really just informing businesses what more we can do. I mean, this is me asking as an owner, what can I do more than what I already did that day? You know, I couldn't call local PD because obviously they told me they're federal agents, you know, we can't do anything. So, I mean, I think as elected council people, that's your guys' job to really kind of figure something out, how as a constituent, how I can better protect my business, how I can better protect my customers. Like I said, I'm a family-owned business, so my family works there. So I feel like I did everything I could in that day, in that scenario, you know, so I don't know what more I could have done.
Are you saying that you called the police and that they didn't file a formal report about this violent incident that took place in Southgate?
I went afterwards because I went to the ER because of my injuries. And then afterwards, I went to go file a report. And when I went to go, an officer told me that they couldn't file a police report because they're federal agents. And he was actually implicating that I was impeding arrests and, you know, made some very serious implications. As a constituent, I didn't feel supported by my local PD. I was very, very disappointed. Actually, I feel like there was a moment where, because he saw me crying, he only actually did an incident report, but he made it very clear that he wasn't gonna formalize a formal report.
And the reason why I want, that was my question, is because in June, when we had the incident with the family that got their door and their window blown off, you know, I was on the phone arguing with my chief of police over them sending an officer to respond and take a report. Because of that incident, the city of Huntington Park had to pass an ordinance that mandated that whenever a call regarding any immigration enforcement is made, there's no internal reporting. You send an officer out there.
Yep.
You get dates, times, locations, because we're in a moment right now of justice deferred, justice delayed. And one day that report is gonna get pulled, and one day that's gonna be part of the congressional record and what's happening. So I urge my mayors, council members here, if they haven't, reach out to Huntington Park. We'll send over what we drafted up, but we mandated that our police departments, that they're mandated to take those reports, because what we're seeing is that there's a loophole with these officers where they're using their discretion to not report, to not take account of what's happening and saying, they're the federal government, we can't do anything about it. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's something that we should make a keynote right here this moment. It's very important.
I will say that's also another thing. I mean, I had to really press to even take pictures, even get a report. You know, as someone who experienced assault, I mean, even from a federal agent or not, I mean, it was assault. You know, having someone who's supposed to protect and serve tell you, hey, there's nothing I can do, it really does take a toll as someone who, you know, suffered all that. Also just, you know, enforcing the no mask ban also. I think that would have avoided a lot of situations because like the Reverend said, I mean, in my situation, anybody can buy these vests that say ICE, masks, and all that. And, you know, if they're entering unidentified like they did, how am I supposed to know that they're actual federal agents? You know, so it just puts everybody at risk, you know.
I was just gonna say, Arturo, I also called local police, the Downey Police Department immediately after it happened, because the only people who came were rapid response, and there were patrol cars that were parked across the street, so I'm sure they saw it happening. And when I called, what they said was that they were aware that there were federal agencies in the city, but that the police department was not interfering. And so thank you for the call, because they had already received several. And when I pressed and I said, no, you don't understand, somebody was just taken. How do I even know that they're ICE? They didn't tell me who they were. They were wearing sunglasses, hats, and, you know, fully masked up to their eyes. You know, how do I know somebody didn't just get kidnapped and abducted? You need to like come and speak to me. They said, thank you for your call. I can hear that you're very concerned. I just want you to know that they are who they say that they are. And so, and I asked, I did say that it was an iron-on patch, because when I told them anybody can put on a patch that says police, you can get that off of Amazon, they laughed from behind their mask, like they opened their mouth and started laughing. And so, yeah, that's another way that I've been impacted. I don't trust the police. I'm like, if I call, who's gonna come and believe me? And then I just want to thank, I think it was Mayor Pico Rivera who I heard started a bond fund in the city for impacted individuals. I will say, Mayor Rex Richardson, that CLU in LA County has one of the largest bond funds that has helped to bond out over 100 individuals, not even just in LA County, but across, because they've been sent even to, Texas and Arizona and all these places, and they're from LA County. And so I would say reach out to those that already have bond funds, especially those that are actively receiving applications, because it's still a need, and they have raised the bond funds. I was helping to walk with individuals to get that processed, and they started out at 10,000. Now we're looking upwards of 25,000 is the minimum, and families, even if you get a bond approved, DHS has the opportunity to counter that. And then if you don't have the money, who's going to have $25,000 just lying around? That means that, their family member can't get out. And so I would encourage those of you that can invest, either create or invest in bond funds, because that helps families to continue to fight outside, and it helps to minimize the trauma that their children, their family members, and their extended communities are experiencing when they know that they're in detention, losing more than 30 pounds, rotten food, no medical attention. I mean, these are the things that we're also hearing when we visit at places like Adelanto in California City as clergy. And so I would really say invest in the bond funds if you're able to, because it is a lifeline for families.
Thank you very much. We have about 15 minutes left, and I want to thank the panelists very much for your time, for what you do on a daily basis on the front lines. And now I would just like to invite mayors, especially those that haven't had a chance to speak, if there's any closing comments that you want to make. Let me say also that the idea of the bond fund are other measures that we're doing in our different cities. I'm hoping and that we are all sharing those. We've done a number of executive directives. I know other cities have, and we want to make sure that we are sharing what we're doing. And, basically all of us are in this together trying to learn from this. I'm also collecting that information nationally from the U.S. Conference of Mayors. So any mayors would like to close us out? We can start with those that haven't spoken.
Mayor Bass, I'm very excited to be here, and reason because we're learning so much. We're learning a lot of things that they're doing that we didn't know what they were doing. So now it gives us an opportunity to actually sit back and take a look at to see what else we can do in our community to actually just to be more creative and with our funding and be able to try to see what is it else that we can add on to what we're already doing. So I'm happy to be here today.
And if you want to send your best practices or what you're doing to us, we would be happy to take responsibility for distributing them to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else like to wrap up? Yes.
I just want to say thank you to the panelists for coming out and sharing your stories. It makes a huge impact on, I think, all of us here to hear exactly what has happened. I did have somewhat of a question. Each of you talked a little bit about sexual assault, physical assault, and emotional and psychological abuse. What has been your experience with accessing mental health services, and how can we as council members and mayors be more on the ground with that in support of our communities?
What we're seeing is like everybody's saturated with everything that is happening. There's a shortage of particularly monolingual Spanish speakers who are therapists, for instance, or members who are part of the LGBTQ community who can support people in our communities. And so it's unfortunate that we don't have enough. We don't have enough organizations like ours and others, you know, don't also have the capacity to provide services for these people. One, because we may not have the funding. Two, because even though we may have the funding, but you know, like it's hard to get someone who has particular qualifications to support people. And I can tell you, I don't know from my colleagues here, but for me personally, right, I am one who has been directly impacted by immigration. I landed in Los Angeles in 1987, and since I've never seen anything like this in Los Angeles. I've never seen armed forces with guns walking in our city. And so every time that I hear a story after story, it's not just that I personally lived myself, but every time that I hear a story, I was listening at the previous panel and everyone here, and you know, it's like reliving that experience, right? Like and also seeing it every day, not just with the people who are close with, but also like in the news, and like it's just a constant thing, and it's we need to do something about that. How do we train more people to be able to provide the support that our community needs?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Bass. I just would like to, again, thank the panelists for being here, and thank especially Yancy Lopez for being here. You know, your story resonated when you spoke to me on the phone when you came, and that's why I thought it was important for your story to be here today. So thank you for being here. And, you know, it's one thing to say that, you know, all of our cities have been impacted, and to know that so many of our families are struggling to deal with this. Something that my father tells me every day it reminds me today that when I was coming here, he said, you know, I hope that after you speak today, you can kind of just ask, you know, when will this country love me as much as I love it? And you know, I hope we're going to get there, because this country gave a lot to him, and he loves it for it. And I know what we've been able to benefit from it, and I know a lot of people on this panel and sitting here up here have benefited from this country and have been, you know, great people to it. And we just want to make sure that it loves us as much as we love it. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Avila Moore from Linwood.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bass. I just want to thank all the panelists that came out today. The work that you do is super important, and we appreciate that you have come and shared your stories with elected officials, and also the businesses and just everyone that is present today and those that are watching. This is super important work. But I also want everyone to know that I can truly relate to a lot of you. You know, I grew up in the city of Linwood from the age of 4 years old, and so I was born in Los Angeles, so I am a true native of Los Angeles. And to see our communities being attacked the way they have is just really heartbreaking. But one thing that does stand out to me that I would like to remind everybody that we can do as elected officials and communities is to also reach up to higher level, our congressmen, and demand defunding DHS. And you know, this is a strong way to stop ICE from continuing, because if you think about it, the resources, the funding that has been allocated to them has been taken away from our healthcare, from housing, and it is devastating, and it is devastating all our communities. Our community in the city of Linwood has been impacted tremendously. Everyone knows Linwood for Plaza Mexico, and the plaza is being hit very hard financially. A lot of businesses have closed there, and if you visit, you will see a lot of vacant properties that say for lease. And so anyhow, my message to everyone here is to continue to reach to our congressmen, to our senators at the higher level. I will be visiting Washington this week, and I will be visiting and sitting down with our senators and making sure to reach out to also our congressmen, because we have to reach the message in the White House and let this administration know that we are going to continue to fight against the acts that are being done here in our communities. So let's just continue to stay strong and continue to fight. And I do appreciate Karen Mayor Bass for coordinating this. And I just want to thank everyone.
Mayor Akana, and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you. I just want to, again, thank you, Mayor Bass, for convening us. We convened back in June when a lot of this madness started. And bringing us together, just, again, sharing what we are doing in our cities, it just reminds us that the work is not done. We need to continue to implement policies that are going to protect our immigrant communities. Hearing about Pico Rivera's bond fund is amazing, but also hearing the testimony of what's actually happening out there on the ground. Some of the stories that I hadn't heard before, that police departments are not taking these reports. These are things that we as elected officials can direct our local police departments to do. We must direct them to start documenting these incidents. So again, I'm grateful to be here to hear these stories, and it breaks my heart, and it just reminds me that there's so much work to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let me just thank everybody for your participation today, members of the audience, the panelists who are on the front lines fighting this every single day, and all of the mayors that are here, and all of us figuring out how we grapple with this administration. And let me just say that we want to continue working together on this issue, because us standing together, united, I think is a very important message to send both to Sacramento and to Washington, D.C. And as I mentioned in the morning, the purpose of this hearing is really to provide the documentation that the federal government will need. Our congressional representative, most notably Robert Garcia, who chairs, well, right now, he's the ranking member of the Government Oversight and Reform Committee, and I feel very good of his opportunity to actually chair this committee come January, because I think things are looking good in that direction. And should he have the gavel, then he will also have the subpoena power, and he will also have this data. The data that Congress compiled when we did the first hearing, where it was an official congressional hearing, Congressman Garcia knows that we're going to send him a video documentation of this, but also a written transcription of everything that was said, all of the testimony, so that things can really be pursued. Having served in Congress, I know what it is to be a member of the minority power, where you literally do not have the power to chair a committee or even speak on the floor, unless the Republicans that are in charge turn on the microphones. And so as a minority, it's limited to what you can do, but in the majority, you can do a lot. And frankly, thinking of the next few years without any guardrails is a frightening thing to think of, and hopefully at least those guardrails can come soon. So I just want to thank all of the mayors for taking your time out, and the council representatives taking your time out for being here. I look forward to sharing our best practices, learning from each other, not only in Los Angeles County, but around the nation. So thank you, everyone, for being here today.